Hello there, and welcome to your Healthier Lifestyles webinar. My name's Ellie and I'll be one of your health and wellbeing coaches for the session today. So I shall be running the Q&A panel, and I'm happy to try and answer any questions that you have throughout the webinar today. This webinar will be interactive, so over the next few weeks we will be presenting information, tools and techniques to support you to make positive changes to your lifestyle in order to improve your mental wellbeing. So the more you interact with these sessions, the more you're going to get from them. And throughout the sessions, you'll be able to ask questions using the Q&A panel. So you can use this function to ask any questions that you have with regards to the webinar today. Anything you write will remain anonymous, and only myself and my colleague Emma will be able to see this. So let's just have a quick go then at using the Q&A function. So if you could just all type hello, please. Okay, great. It looks like it's working well there. I've got some few answers come through. So we will have a couple of Q&A breaks throughout the session today, where we will be sort of reading out answers reading out questions to the group, and I'll be answering them as best I can. We will do our best to respond to everyone. However, we may sort of group questions together if there are any sort of similar questions. So you're not necessarily going to get a written response to your question, because we're going to address them verbally, so everybody can sort of benefit from the answers. We then also got the Slido function. So there will be some parts of the webinar where you can submit answers to questions live and share these with the rest of the group. And you could submit these answers by scanning the QR code, or you can type the room code into slido.com. So everything written on Slido will be anonymous, but please note that your answers will be visible to the group. So we recommend that you only write things that you feel comfortable sharing with the group. It might also be easier to use two devices, so you may wish to use maybe a tablet and a phone, or a laptop and a phone, or you could try opening a separate tab on your browser if you would like to participate in these slides. If you don't have access to two devices, or you simply don't wish to participate in the Slidos, then that's also fine. You can just watch along, or you can continue to submit feedback or questions anonymously via the Q&A. So I'm now going to pass you over to my colleague Emma to introduce herself.
Thank you, Ellie. So as Ellie says, I'm Emma. I'm another one of the health and wellbeing coaches here at VitaMinds, and I'll be presenting the webinar to you today. So thank you for all coming along to this session. Hopefully everyone is able to see the slides and see and hear us well. So we shall make a start. Okay, so over the next 4 weeks of the course, we're going to aim to look at helping you to understand how to make positive lifestyle changes and how they can improve your mental well-being. Learn about how to improve your motivation and set yourself goals, and learn about the NHS recommendations for a healthy lifestyle. And also to learn about the common barriers to making changes to physical activity levels and healthier eating, and how to overcome them. So hopefully by the end of the course you will have a better understanding on how your mental and physical health are linked, and how your lifestyle can have an impact on both of them. Okay, so here is a brief overview of what we will be looking at over each week. So this is obviously week 1, and we'll be looking at how your lifestyle affects your well-being and making changes or making a change. Week 2, it will be how to improve your motivation and set effective goals. You've got week 3, physical activity for mental well-being, and then last but not least, week 4 will be food and mood. Okay, so here is the course structure. So obviously at the moment we're talking or looking at the introduction and our course outline. And then we'll be moving on to how does our lifestyle impact our mental well-being. Then we will be looking at why changing our physical activity levels and diet can improve our mental well-being. Then difficulties with change and how to get through them. How to improve your motivation. Effective goal setting. The NHS recommendations for physical activity and which activities are best for improving our mental well-being. The NHS recommendations for healthier diet and foods that are best for improving our mental well-being. And then last but not least, what next and where to go for further support. Okay, so on the screen now are the questionnaires we ask you to complete each week, and they are important for us to know how you're feeling and a way of measuring things. More importantly, they are a tool that can be used to review your progress throughout the course. Each questionnaire serves a different purpose and all are equally as important as each other. It is a requirement that you complete these questionnaires prior to attending each session or each webinar. If you do not complete it, you will be marked down as a non-attendant, and with multiple non-attendees will result in your case being closed. In future sessions, if you have not received either the questionnaires or the web link, please give us a call. So now I'm going to pass you back to Ellie, who's going to take you through our first Slido.
Lovely, thank you, Emma. Okay, so hopefully you can all see that on your screen there, the QR code and the slido.com and the codes. You can use either of those to answer this question now. So what does living a healthier lifestyle mean to you? So those of you who would like to participate in this or can open Slido, please send over your answers now. Remember, anything you do type will be anonymous but will be visible to the group. Or alternatively, if you want to send your answers via the Q&A, you can always do that as well, and I can read them out. So I'm just going to give you a couple of minutes to do that. Okay, brilliant. We've got an answer already there. So we've got eating better. Excellent. Not smoking. Yeah, there's really good ones, definitely. So we don't help specifically with not smoking on this course, but we can send some resources to you if that is something that you would like to do. We can sort of signpost you to further information and resources there. Good sleep, yeah, for sure. Again, we don't touch in too much detail on sleep, but we do have some really good tips to sort of improve your sleep hygiene, and also sort of improving your diet and exercise is going to help with sleep as well, because they're all very much linked. Yeah, work-life balance, that's a big one, isn't it? A lot of people working from home these days, so trying to kind of have that work-life balance can be really, really tricky. So it is important to kind of switch off from work and have the differentiation between the two. Eating healthier and losing weight, brilliant, yeah. Lots of diet ones coming through here. Weight loss, again, we do have another program, the weight management program that we run. It's just 2 sessions, so if you're interested in that, then you can always send us an email to find out more, or speak to your coach if you're having one-to-one coaching sessions. Relaxation, yeah, it is really, really important to prioritize relaxation time. Yeah, specific times of the day to do that. Because that's something that a lot of us don't do enough of. And being happy, yeah, for sure. So yeah, our mood is very much affected by our lifestyle choices. So actually, yeah, when you start to sort of increase your exercise levels and things like that, hopefully you will notice a difference to your mood and feel much happier. Lovely. Okay, well, that's some really good answers there. So thank you for sending those over. So I'm now going to hand back over to Emma.
Lovely. Thank you, Ellie. Some good answers there. Excellent. Okay, so why make changes to your lifestyle? The NHS advises that eating healthily, doing more exercise, stopping smoking, drinking alcohol within safe limits, and looking after your mental well-being will reduce your risk of long-term health conditions and mental illness. It will also increase your life expectancy. So some people may find that smoking, drinking alcohol, etc. helps them in the short term to unwind after maybe a stressful day. However, in the long term, these are going to have an impact on your physical and mental health. So when following this advice in this statement, it can improve our quality of life, improve resilience to life stresses, enjoying your time, and living longer and living well. So on the screen now, you can see a diagram. This shows us the determinants of your health, or in other words, the factors that affect your health. And as you can see, from the biggest factor is our individual behaviours or lifestyle choices, which accounts for around 40%. So quite a big number, isn't it? So other factors are our genetics, which can have a 30% influence on a person's overall health and well-being. So an example could be if you have a family history of heart disease, you are likely to have a higher risk, but this history only accounts for 30% of your health. And so you may not get the disease if other areas of your health are good. If you take part in unhealthy behaviours, such as not exercising enough and eating the wrong foods on top of having that genetic risk, then you have a higher chance of ill health. So our genetics do not doom us completely. Our lifestyle and behaviour is more important to prevent health problems. So also you can see from the diagram you have other areas, and that's a 30% split. This is split into social circumstances such as employment, housing and social connections, the environment and medical care. So what the diagram is basically saying is that our lifestyle is in our control and the other factors in the diagram are less in our control. And it's never too late to start making some changes to feel better. Okay, so healthier lifestyle and mental well-being. So when our mood is low or we feel stressed, we tend to engage in less healthy behaviours. We may stop doing activities or do less of them. And we may experience some short-term benefits from not doing these activities. So for example, we may feel better when we get home and just curl up on the sofa, and this encourages us, unfortunately, to do less and less. But in the long term, doing this means we don't experience a sense of achievement or enjoyment. And this means we are likely to continue making poorer lifestyle choices, which affects our mental well-being. And so this vicious cycle will continue. Okay, so how does physical activity improve our mental well-being? So if we exercise, we release some feel-good hormones, which are called endorphins, which will then increase our energy levels, so we're able to do more activity. And then this will help us sleep a little better. This then can reduce the symptoms of depression and anxiety, which then reduces our stress levels. So this will increase our motivation then to want to do more, and so the cycle will continue. It is important to understand that the difference between physical activity and exercise, physical activity is when we are doing our daily activities. However, exercise is when we're working that little bit harder and raising our heart rate slightly and increasing our breathing rate slightly as well. Therefore, these are the activities that will really get those happy hormones released, and this is where we will start to feel better. So we will talk about a little bit more about physical activity in a little bit more detail on week 3. Okay, so that's just a bit of an outline on how physical activity can improve our mental well-being. Okay, so now we're going to look through how healthy eating and drinking can improve our mental health. We tend to look at weight management as our main reason for eating and drinking better. However, by eating and drinking better, we can also improve our brain function, which helps us feel less sluggish, which then in turn can improve our mood and our concentration, and then can reduce symptoms of depression and anxiety. And then we have that bonus effect of weight management. So we are what we eat. Providing our minds and bodies with the right nutrients will give us the energy to do our daily activities and improve our mood. And again, that's just a bit of basics around that. However, we will go into more detail about healthy eating and drinking for our mental health in week 4 of these webinars. Okay, so regular physical activity has been shown to be as effective as antidepressant medication for mild to moderate depression. It can also reduce your risk of long-term depression by 30%. So this refers back to what we mentioned in the previous slide about the happy hormones we produce when we exercise. Your gut and your brain are closely linked. The food and drink you consume directly impacts your brain and therefore mental well-being. So try to follow the NHS Eat Well guide. So if you eat a healthier diet, your body will produce good bacteria, which makes you feel good. And if you eat unhealthy foods, such as foods high in fats and sugar, this can cause inflammation, so you feel worse. There are lots of foods you can eat to improve your mental health, but we will discuss that a little bit more in week 4. And then you can start to see, start seeing a difference in your well-being almost straight away. Improved diet and physical activity also improves sleep quality and improves your stress, your resilience to stress. Okay, here we have a bit of a Q&A section for you. So over to Ellie for this.
Lovely, thank you, Emma. Okay, so does anybody have any questions so far about that sort of first part of the webinar? So if you do, please send them to us via the Q&A panel now. So we're going to pause for a couple of minutes for you to do this. And then after the Q&A break, we're going to move on to talk about how to start making changes. So I'm just going to wait a moment and see if we've got any questions. Okay, so we've got a good question coming here actually. So someone's saying, I'm in a bit of a vicious cycle with low mood and low energy, which means that I can't face exercising, and how can I overcome this? All right then, so this is a good question around sort of motivation to exercise, isn't it? Which is something we will be covering in a bit more detail during next week's webinar. But quite often when we experience low mood, this does cause us to feel quite lethargic, and it can reduce our motivation to do things. So what I'd recommend is, plan ahead and try to exercise in the day when you sort of feel at your best, before the day sort of tires you out. You could try having maybe a sort of small healthy snack, sort of 30 to 60 minutes beforehand. So maybe a piece of fruit or some whole grain toast, just something small just to boost your energy a little bit. Try to just set some really small goals initially. Again, we're going to go through a sort of how to do effective goal setting throughout the webinars. But, even just sort of 5 or 10 minutes, once or twice a week initially, it might sound really small, but it is a really good starting point. And then if you obviously achieve that, you'll feel more motivated to then maybe build on that goal or work towards it again. And it does sound strange because obviously you do need energy to exercise, but exercise does actually give you more energy, which hopefully we'll start to explore a bit more in the webinar today. And you never know, you might even feel like doing more once you get going. All right, so I hope that helps. So just wait another minute just to see if there's any more questions at this stage, but you will have some more time at the end to ask any further questions if you have any. Okay, so somebody's put that they have a high sugar intake when they feel low and they always go for sort of sweet things. Okay, this is very, very common actually, and quite often sort of our blood sugar levels kind of dip up and down with our mood, so it can lead to lots of sort of fluctuations in our mood. So they are very much sort of linked, and quite often kind of low mood and low energy are also linked. So quite often if you do experience low mood, you have low energy, or vice versa, then you do sort of tend to crave high sugar foods as that kind of quick energy release. But then unfortunately that is followed by a big crash in energy and potentially mood afterwards as well. And sugar also kind of it feeds the kind of bad bacteria in your gut, which we're going to discuss a little bit more about throughout the webinars in a couple of weeks' time. But yeah, they are very much linked, so I can understand why that's happening, and hopefully we can sort of help you to build a healthier diet during the diet webinar in a few weeks' time. In order to then sort of reduce those sort of sugar cravings and things, and also increasing your exercise levels will sort of hopefully help to give you more energy, so you're then not craving as much sort of sugary things. So I hope that kind of clarifies things a little bit, but we will go into this in a bit more detail. All right, so there's no more questions for the time being, so I'm going to hand back over to Emma now.
Thank you, Ellie. Bear with me 2 seconds. Okay, so now I'd like to ask you this question. So you don't have to pop anything in the Q&A panel at all. This is just for yourselves to have a little think about. And also it's quite a good thing to reflect on later on. So once you've done those 4 weeks of the webinars, or whether you sort of set some goals moving forward, it'd be interesting to see how you are today and then revert back to this later on. So it might be worth popping your answers down on a bit of paper as well, so you've got that reference to come back to later on. So first of all then, how would you rate your lifestyle on a scale of 0 to 10? And then where would you like it to be, again, on a scale of 0 to 10? And then last but not least, why is leading a healthy lifestyle important to you? So just going to pause for a moment to allow you to have a little think about that and write your answers down if you wish. Okay. So change a little, gain a lot. So when we look at making some lifestyle changes, there are various stages we go through. So first of all, you have the pre-contemplation stage, or the not thinking stage. And this is the first stage, and it may be where you're aware of what you want to change, but you have no real intention of changing your behaviour. So an example of this could be maybe thinking that you need to start doing some exercise, but cannot find the motivation to do it. And then you're going to move on to the contemplation stage, or the thinking stage, and this is where you're more aware of what you want to change. You start to think about the pros and cons of changing, and that changing your habit might benefit you. However, you spend a lot of time thinking about it rather than doing. And then people tend to progress to the preparation stage, and this is where you're ready to start. This is where your commitment to the intention of starting to make that change right now, or you start to make that commitment. It is this stage where you may begin to make small steps forward, typically within a month. An example for this could be that you've booked a PT session at your local gym. Okay, then you move on to the action stage. So this is your making changes stage, when you move from planning to doing. Someone in this stage has put their plans into action, made significant changes within the first month and up to 6 months. So this could be a likely stage where a lot of you on the webinar are today. And an example of this could be you have started attending the gym now. And then finally, you have the maintenance stage, or the maintaining changes, is where your once desired behaviour is now reality, and you've been doing it for the last 6 months. You may come to realise that the one thing you've doubted you could do is actually possible and is now part of your daily life. That threat of returning to your old habits has become less common. So out of all these stages, this is by far the most important, and the possibility of relapsing to old behaviours and recycling through the stages may always be there. So it's really important to continue planning for events that might trigger your old behaviours to reappear. Maintenance is ideally where you'd like to be with your goals after some practice. Recalling what helped you through the previous stages can help you feel less strong. In addition, reflecting on mistakes you've made can help you avoid them in the next time round. Healthy self-reflection is allowing yourself to acknowledge those mistakes and thinking about what you would do differently in the future, while still accepting yourself for who you are today. So, where do you think you are on the stage of change? And what do you think you need to do to move to the next part? So again, you don't need to write your answers into the Q&A panel. This is just again for yourself to have a little reflection on where you are, and hopefully you'll notice a change throughout the weeks in the programme. Just going to pause for a little bit longer just for you to have a little think about it and maybe write it down. Okay, so small changes add up every day. So this is a really important thing to think about. Small changes add up, and making small changes gradually over a period of time will help you form healthy habits for life. So you've got some examples here on the screen. You've got, first one is 15 minutes extra walking, 1 extra glass of water, 1 extra portion of vegetables, and 10 minutes of set relaxation time. So we are going to look at some more changes you can make shortly, but these are some examples you could use over the next week. So these are some small changes that you could potentially make over the next week. And even though they are small, they're still a good place to start. And it's making those changes moving forward, which is where we want to be. Okay, so here we have some more examples of things you can start to make. There are obviously a lot more out there, so just try and focus on about 2 to 3 that you can possibly think about doing over the next week. So you can swap to whole grain carbohydrates where possible, such as whole wheat pasta, eating 1 extra portion of fruit or vegetables each day. Schedule in some 10 minutes of relaxation. Try to do something active for at least 10 minutes each day. Drink at least 1 glass of water extra a day. Have at least 1 less caffeinated drink per day. Plan physical activity into your week that you used to enjoy. Try a new healthy food or type of exercise class. And do some research about anything else you want to change. So again, there's some small changes there you could, or some ideas you could potentially use moving forward. Okay, on the screen now, you have some tips to help you turn your changes into habits. So try and start small. Make changes gradually and track your progress. Be specific about what you are going to change and how. Make it your priority. Plan and schedule activities each day, week, and think of a backup plan. Okay, so as we know, change can be difficult. First of all, as there could be a fear or risk involved. Fear something new or fear of change. Humans are programmed to fear the unknown, and we prefer habits and routine. Then you've got habits, things we do repeatedly without thinking about it. If we don't think about it, then how do we start thinking about changing it? It's also easy and more comfortable, but ideally we want to turn changes into new habits and they eventually become easier and more comfortable. Individual circumstances, so things like our upbringing, our education, etc., links to habits if we've developed them from childhood. Motivation and reward, so not setting yourself up for change in an effective way, so making sure that you are making the change for yourself and nobody is telling you what to do. Modern living, everything is really convenient, food is easily accessible and we use transportation to get us to places rather than walking, cycling, etc. Okay, so here on the screen now, some home practice ready for next week's session. So what we'd like you to do is make at least one small change to your lifestyle this week. So think about those things back in the webinar today, those small changes. Think about if there's any of those that you could potentially do. And then number 2 is to complete questionnaires for next week's session. Okay, so we have another Slido now. So back over to Ellie to take this for us.
Lovely, thank you, Emma. Okay, so what small change do you plan to make this week? So again, those of you who can open up Slido, please send over your answers now, and do remember anything that you share will be visible to the group, or alternatively, if you want to use the Q&A panel, if you're unable to access Slido, then you can also post your answers that way. So let's pause for a couple of minutes to see your answers. Okay, so someone's saying drink a glass of water each day, an extra glass of water each day. Brilliant. Okay, that's a really, really good one. You know, quite often we are dehydrated, which does sort of cause low mood, low energy, things like that. You know, not a lot of us do not drink enough water, so that is a really, really good starting point if you want to sort of boost your energy levels, help your body to kind of transport all that nutrients that you eat from the food that you have around to all those kind of cells in the body. If we're dehydrated, then it kind of, the kind of cells in the brain cells and things lack that nutrients, so it can make us feel quite fatigued and tired and unable to sort of concentrate. So that's a really good starting point. Try and swim once this week. Yeah, that's a really good one. Swimming is really excellent. It's a good sort of activity to do to kind of get into exercise again if you haven't been exercising in a while, or maybe not tried exercising before. So that's a really excellent one. And just trying to do it once is a good starting point, so you're not going to overwhelm yourself. Buy a new water bottle with the times on it to make sure that I'm drinking enough. Yeah, those water bottles are excellent. Yeah, you can get the 2-litre ones as well, and it's advised that we sort of drink 2 litres of fluids a day. So that's a really good idea to kind of encourage you to do that, and just remember to keep it with you. And then we've got 15 minutes extra walking. Okay, that's a really, really good goal. All I would say is be a little bit more specific with that one. So, you know, are you going to do that 15 minutes of extra walking once a day, or is it twice a week, or is it every day? You know, things like that. So just try and be as specific as you can so you know whether you sort of achieved that goal. And then an extra piece of fruit each day. Excellent. That's a really good one. You might want to kind of add that to one of your meals or maybe as a snack. So that's a really good starting point. Try some new fruits, veg in a juicer or smoothie. Yeah, brilliant. If you're into doing that, that's a really good way to kind of get in lots of different varieties of colours of fruit and veg as well, because the more sort of variety of colours that we have, the more different nutrients that we're getting for the body and brain. Brilliant. Okay. Looks like the answers have stopped coming in now. So there's some really, really good answers there and some really good changes. So yeah, good luck with those goals this week. So I believe we've got a Q&A section now. So if anybody's got any more questions, this is your final opportunity to ask any questions today. So do post them to me via the Q&A panel now, and I'll do my best to answer them. And just to I just thought of another sort of suggestion for that person before that said about having the kind of high sugar intake when they're feeling low. It does sound that you're kind of maybe comfort eating in response to sort of a particular feeling or emotion, which a lot of us do. So the best thing you can do is try and play around with your kind of general routine and try and notice kind of what your kind of triggers are to do that. You know, is it time of day? Is it a specific place? Is it a specific feeling you're feeling as well? And then try and distract yourself with something else, particularly if you are eating off an emotion rather than eating because you're hungry. We do have, as I said, the weight management webinars. Part 2 of the weight management webinars does touch on comfort eating, so it might be helpful to kind of speak to one of your coaches, or you can always email us if you'd like some more information on that, or we can always send you some resources on kind of changing habits as well, because that can really help with identifying sort of what you can do to kind of help change that pattern of eating. So I hope that helps. And someone's just popping here as well. I think this was from the Slido. So someone said that they would like to try and add an extra fruit or vegetable a day. Brilliant. So yeah, it is really important to kind of get a bit of both fruit and veg. As I said, the different colours and things have different kind of vitamins and minerals which are needed for sort of different bodily processes in the brain. So it's important to get that good array of colours. Okay, so someone's asking a really good question here. They're saying they're a fussy eater, don't really like the taste and texture of veg. What can they do to get more veg in? So that's a really, really good question. If you Google kind of how to hide veg in recipes, there is so many recipes online, particularly useful if you have sort of fussy children. But yeah, things like spinach can be really good. You can hide lots of vegetables and things in like sauces. So if you kind of make like almost like a tomato based sauce, you can put lots of different veg in, like kind of courgettes, aubergines, spinach, stuff like that, and just blend it down into almost like a, yeah, as I said, a tomato based sauce. You can put that on like pasta or something like that. That can really help you to kind of make sure you're getting lots of nutrients, but you're not necessarily noticing eating those vegetables. So yeah, I hope that helps. Let's just see if there's any more questions. Okay, and somebody is saying here that they're in their first trimester of pregnancy, really struggling with loss of appetite and things like that. So any tips to sort of try to eat healthy with this? We might have some resources actually on pregnancy. So I'll have a little look and see if we can find something. I'll pop our email address into the Q&A box now, so you can just maybe send us an email with that question. We can reply with some resources. Otherwise, though, I would advise sort of speaking to your GP or maybe the nurse or something like that, that's kind of might be able to give you a bit more sort of medical advice around that. But I will have a look and see if we've got any resources we can send. Okay. Doesn't look like there are any more questions for the time being then. So that does bring us to the end of the webinar today. So thank you for coming along. I do hope that you now have a better understanding of the importance of making healthy lifestyle changes to improve your mental well-being. And hopefully you do now feel more able to make even just one sort of small positive change to your lifestyle this week, to hopefully then achieve better health. We will see you at the same time next week to discuss motivation and setting effective goals. But myself and Emma will stick around for another couple of minutes in case anybody has any final questions. And of course, Emma, if you've got anything to add there to those questions, please feel free to come back on and do that. But otherwise, feel free to leave this live event whenever you're ready, and we'll see you next time.